So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Construction CPA's Coffee Cafe. I am the Construction CPA, Lisa Raish. We are dropping the hammer on cash flow problems so you can build things that matter. Today's topic is key challenges that you're facing in your construction business. We're going to go through a number of them here. Some of them have become more prevalent in recent years. Some of them, to be completely honest, have been challenges in the industry for many, many years. So, kind of let's get into it. First one is labor shortages. It has become far more prevalent in the last 3 or 4 years, especially in construction. Finding those individuals who are skilled in the industry um, has become more challenging. But the truth is there's really been challenges finding skilled individuals in the industry, in the trades for many, many years. I've been doing this for, let's just say, a long time, and it has been a problem across the industries for through my clients have seen for years, for many, many years. So, but it's gotten far more challenging. There are parts of the country that it is harder than others. But there have really been shortages in construction for a long time. There are, like many of the industries in this country right now, many of those in the industry are starting to age out. That's becoming kind of a chronic problem across the board, but a little bit more prevalent in construction. So you're getting those individuals who are aging out, and just not getting the younger individuals kind of coming into the trades. Um, and so, again, like anything else, as your skilled individuals age out, they retire out, there really isn't that backfill of an individual. So, in many cases, if you are able to find someone, you may need to put a significant amount of training into that individual. They may not come to you with the basic, the trainings that you would hope that they would already have. Um, Again, finding skilled individuals is hard. So we've seen some of our clients who've had some luck with finding or partnerships with some of the trade schools. Um, I know I'm in a part of the country right now where I'm located, and the trade schools aren't as prevalent as the part of the country that I actually used to live in. So again, it might be in, part of its locality to locality. But again, having a partnership where the trade organizations, can kind of funnel them. The other thing is that there are also some not-for-profit organizations out there that are training up individuals in the trades. So maybe not necessarily a specific training school, or for instance, I've seen the trades actually being trained in high school in parts of the country. Where I'm located now, there are a couple of not for profits that actually train individuals in the trades, so that if you've built a relationship with this not for profit, in some cases, they have the ability to potentially funnel candidates to you once they've finished a program, and be able to, again, it's a feeder for you, but then also is a great tool for these not-for-profit agencies or even these trade schools to be able to have those relationships, so that right after someone finishes a program, there is an opportunity for them to find employment. So again, building those relationships with those kind of funnel organizations so that you can work on building out your candidate base. The other thing is consider also, what does your training program look like in your company? There is, opportunities for, again, in the industries to kind of train and get together a group of individuals and be able to train on what it is that you're doing in your space, so that you can, again, not only teach basic skills, but then specific things that might be specific for your business, the type or the way that you operate your business. Um, as always, rising material costs is a really, really big problem. They go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. Through COVID, supply chain disruptions, prices went up. Wood went up incredibly high. Other materials like concrete weren't as high, but then the wood prices came back down, and then the concrete prices went up. And so what you're seeing are constant fluctuation in pricing. So when you are doing any of your quoting and any of your bidding, it can be challenging because you could potentially put in a bid for a project today, but it might not start for 3 months. And so in that period, there may be some pricing fluctuations that you have to consider. So you have to really look at that. You can't stop doing business, but it's something that you need to look to, kind of monitoring what's going on. Unfortunately, now it's not just what's going on in your country, it's what's going on globally because a lot of these products are coming out of other countries. So, are there any kind of economic or political disruptions going on in some of these countries, which are ultimately feeding items to us? And if that's the case, how does that affect your ability to get items? Again, going back to COVID, there was a period where you couldn't get 2x4s and you couldn't get sheetrock. Prices were out of this world, but there were periods where you just couldn't even get those items. So again, in some cases, you may want to think about at times, securing more materials. And unfortunately, again, it's an additional cost to you. It's an additional cost to store them and so on. Costs going out the door before you actually know that the revenue is going to be coming in. But sometimes that is what you need to do in order to protect yourself, not only from rising prices, but from inabilities to get items in your marketplace to actually service and complete the projects that you have. So again, I do have a couple of our clients that once we get to year end, they typically will go out and they actually buy a bunch of materials. And it also speaks to how much work that they're going to have once the weather in the winter kind of breaks. But for them, especially if costs on certain pieces are down, it actually makes sense to buy the materials. Unfortunately, again, it's a cash outlay a number of months prior to those materials actually being used. But in some cases, it's a way for them to keep certain prices down because they know that there's going to be an expectation of prices going up, especially in the colder parts of the country. As you move into the spring, you get out of the winter months, prices start to go up as, again, more and more work is being done. So again, it could potentially be a way for you to hedge any of your price increases by buying some of the materials when they are reasonably priced. You're never going to get really amazing discounts, but when it's maybe more preferentially priced than being able to store that materials until you need to use them down the road. Another thing is adapting to technology and innovation. And this is a huge gaping hole in construction. It's one of the things that in many cases doesn't actually get adopted. Tech is just one thing that most construction companies don't lean into. While some of the products that are out there, the technologies that are out there may be beyond what you're doing in your local construction business, there are opportunities for you to improve certain things. For example, just something simple like time tracking on products. Are you actually, maintaining paper timesheets, right? Is there an opportunity for you to move to some electronic format of timesheet management so that you can more closely monitor the hours, not only total hours to an individual on a weekly basis, but also total hours on a weekly basis into various projects to determine whether or not those projects are in fact in line with your expectations of the work that you're doing. So the clients that tend to have a little bit more success are the ones that do start to lean a little bit into the technology. Now, again, a lot of the crazy tech that you see out there today, you may not be something you're going to use in your construction business. But again, are there small things that you can start to adopt in your construction business that will, in fact, alleviate some manual aspect of something you're doing? Can you improve an efficiency, for example, in your back office, right? Improve the efficiencies and therefore the people who are, or the person. And sometimes when you're a smaller construction business, that's actually you, the owner. Are there ways to improve your efficiencies in the back office aspect of your construction business so that you, in fact, can get out and supervise more on projects or be able to go out and sell more and bring on more projects? So again, it's something that I see more clients leaning into. I think there's an opportunity, and it tends to be an area that most people are a little concerned about. But if you are able to embrace the technology and the innovations, even on a smaller scale in your business, again, something basic like time management, you really have an opportunity to improve, again, minimal efficiencies in your business, but save you or even your office manager time. And then those individuals, even yourself, could be doing other things that are just going to provide you more value in your business than, again, somebody doing a lot of manual work that could potentially be automated. Uh, there's always the reality is there's always some sort of economic uncertainty out there. There's always some sort of marketplace volatility, right? What's going on in the world, in other countries, wars, different people being elected in and out, not only in this country, but in other countries. Are things shifting in these other countries? Those are all things that ultimately really flow back to what it is that you're doing. And if you are that local construction business, you're the one locally servicing, again, the homeowners in the area or the commercial businesses in the area. You're the one that's actually seeing, in some cases, the volatility in that market, right? So the volatility in, people aren't sure whether or not they want to move forward with a construction project because they're seeing that there are going to be issues up ahead. We just went through this election cycle. I was hearing not only from this industry, but from colleagues in other industries that certain people were holding off on pulling the trigger on, whatever project they wanted to do because they weren't sure what was going to happen. Which way this or that was going to unfold. Um, are you buying raw materials from Asia? Is there an expectation that now those raw materials are going to cost more money and therefore you're going to have to pass them down to your customers? So those are the things that you really, while you need to keep an eye on them, sometimes we get crippled by them, like what's going on in the economy. Oh, okay, well, we pretty much stop everything that we're doing until we, feel that things are better. So those are the kinds of things, while they should be considered, you can't let them be the main thing that determines what you're going to do moving forward. It just speaks to, like all of the other items that we've discussed today, it speaks to kind of all of those things together, and how do you move forward, and how do you hire new people, and how many more do you really want to hire because you're watching what's going on in the marketplace, and you're watching what's going on in the economy and what's going on politically, and how much are your materials going to cost more money. So those are all things that you want to think about and monitor, keep your eye on, so that you could in fact get ahead of it in advance. But it really shouldn't necessarily be the thing that stops you from doing things. Yes, you want to keep your eyes open, like, oh, again, we have inflation right now, so costs are going up for everything. How does that really relate to what you're doing? Or how does that fold into what you're doing? Does it make it harder for you to find individuals because it actually is going to cost you more money to get those individuals? Or is there a concern that there's going to be a recession? We hear that every 18 months or so, someone comes around, an economist says, oh, there will be a recession. Again, if those are things to consider, and you want to monitor them as, time is going along, but you wouldn't want to make that the key factor that you use in really making your decisions, but you want to look to that to speak to in the overall group of things when you're making your business decision. So, in today's economic world, the things that you're going to want to look at are some of the challenges that you're running up against. And we're seeing chronically across our clients, as well as my colleagues and their client base, labor shortages not only across construction, but across most industries, to be completely honest. Big one in construction is rising material costs and the supply chain disruptions. You've got to consider, whether or not, how the prices are going up and how that ultimately affects the profitability in the projects that you bid on, and the work that you're going to do in a subsequent period. Construction, I'd love to see more construction companies adapt to technology, really utilize and lean into that technology and improve some of the efficiencies in their business, so that they can, in fact, do more of the work that they're good at, right? Do more projects, bring on more projects, et cetera. There's always going to be a regulatory environment that you'll have to look at. There's going to be, you'll hear that, oh, this one agency is going to want you to do this, and, you won't be able to do that anymore. You'll have to do this. And those are always things that you want to think about. They may have some cost implications to them. But again, right, is there some sort of regulatory issue going on in your industry, in your locality that you need to consider? And the last thing to think about, and again, I think we have to pretty much consider it ongoing now. It's not just something that is subject to this moment in time, is there's always some level of economic uncertainty or some level of market volatility that we want to think about. We've got to look to see what's going on in our own economy, what's going on in the overall global economies, because today, what's going on in the world ultimately feeds back to what's going on in this country. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We always love to hear from you. And as always, we look forward to seeing you here every Friday on the Construction CPA's Coffee Cafe. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.